Now we come out with a ball that goes 50 yards further than when I played, and 80 yards further than when Bobby Jones played, and this will be on tape in years to come. And well, people will say, Gary Player was right. They will change that golf ball. They will have to.
I am James, and this is Golf Relived. Golf legends are calling modern ball technology stupid, and they are not holding back. Right after hitting their ceremonial tee shots at the 2026 Masters, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Tom Watson stood together and delivered a message that sent shockwaves through the sport. They said the game is broken, the ball flies too far, courses are being stretched beyond recognition, money is being burned, water is running out, and the governing bodies are offering a solution that one legend compared to throwing a deck chair off the Titanic. This is not just nostalgia. Use the hype feature and give hype to this video. It helps more than you know. This is a full-blown crisis about the future of golf. The United States Golf Association and the R&A have announced a universal golf ball rollback set to take effect on the 1st of January 2030. The plan is simple. Test balls at faster speeds. Force manufacturers to design balls that fly shorter at the elite level. Save the game from a distance explosion that has turned strategic masterpieces into power contests. But here is the problem. The legends say it is too little. The modern stars say it is unnecessary. And everyone in between is bracing for what insiders are calling a retail nightmare. Now, let us break down exactly how golf got here and why the biggest names in the sport are so angry. To understand the fury, you need to know what the rollback actually does. Right now, golf balls are tested at a clubhead speed of 120 miles per hour. Under the new rule, that test speed jumps to 125 miles per hour. The maximum distance stays at 317 yards with a 3-yard tolerance. But the testing parameters shift. Launch angle goes from 10 degrees to 11 degrees. Spin rate drops from 2,520 revolutions per minute to 2,220. What does that mean in English? At the highest level, the ball becomes shorter, higher launching, and lower spinning. For the longest hitters on tour, that translates to a loss of about 13 to 15 yards off the tee. For the average recreational golfer, the impact is projected at 5 yards or less. That sounds quite reasonable, right? Not if you ask the people who built this game. The timeline is part of the chaos. In December 2023, the USGA and the R&A issued a notice of decision with a phased approach. Elite competitions would switch on the 1st of January 2028. Recreational golfers could use existing stocks until 2030, but by January 2026, the governing bodies changed course. They released an area of interest statement suggesting a single unified date for everyone, the 1st of January 2030. Why the shift? Because a two-tier system would create what manufacturers and retailers described as absolute chaos. Pro shops would have to manage inventory that is legal for some players but non-conforming for others. Imagine stocking shelves with balls marked for amateurs only while elite players need a completely different product. The industry pushed back hard, and the governing bodies blinked. So what does history tell us about how we got here? Let us count down the voices that matter, starting with number 5. Number 5. Ian Baker-Finch. The former Open champion and longtime broadcaster has a blunt assessment. The rollback is too little, too late. Baker-Finch believes manufacturers will engineer their way out of the distance loss by the time 2030 arrives. He points out that the governing bodies are giving companies 4 years to redesign. That is more than enough time to find loopholes. Improve aerodynamics. Tweak the core energy transfer. Recover those 15 yards through legal innovation. He argues the USGA should have acted earlier and gone harder. Maybe a 10% reduction. Maybe rolling back driver head size at the same time. Maybe forcing the ball to spin more so it is harder to control in the wind. Baker-Finch respects the athleticism of today's professionals. He believes the best players would still rise to the top, but he wants to see more skills rewarded. Long iron play. Course management. Precision over brute force. He also highlights a problem nobody talks about enough. Slow play. Longer courses mean longer walks. Professional players are now covering an extra couple of 100 yards per hole compared to previous generations. That adds up to about 2 miles at the end of the day. It slows the pace. It drags out rounds to 5 hours. It hurts the spectator experience. Baker-Finch sees the rollback as a gesture, not a solution. Number 4. The modern player rebellion. Not everyone thinks the ball is the problem. Justin Thomas delivered a famous 3-minute rant at the 2023 Valspar Championship that summed up the opposition. He called the rollback stupid. He said the USGA is creating a solution for a problem that does not exist. Thomas argues golf is an evolutionary sport. Athletes train harder, they work out, they use technology to optimize their swings. Why punish them for being better? He points out that the rollback is being designed to address the top 0.1% of golfers, the absolute longest hitters, but the rule applies to everyone. That means 50 million recreational golfers around the world will lose distance for a problem they did not create. Thomas also defends the unity of golf. He loves that an amateur can play the exact same ball as a professional. It is one of the unique aspects of the sport. The rollback destroys that connection. His teammate Sam Burns agrees. He says golf is an entertainment sport. Fans do not come to watch shorter drives. They want to see 350-yard bombs. They want to see power. They want to see athleticism on display. Billy Horschel takes a different angle. He says the ball is not the real culprit. If the governing bodies want to make a difference, they should roll back driver head size. Current drivers are 460 cubic centimeters. They are massive. They are forgiving. A player can miss the center of the face and still send it flying. Horschel argues that limiting head size would reward precision without punishing the average golfer who does not generate tour-level speed. The modern players see this as an attack on their skills. They worked for years to build strength and speed. Now the rule makers want to take it away. Number 3. Brandel Chambly. The analyst and former tour player has become one of the loudest critics of the rollback, but his objections are economic, not nostalgic. Chambly argues the governing bodies are out of touch with the 50 million global golfers who do not want their distance reduced. He focuses on what he calls the research and development tax. Manufacturers like Titleist and Callaway will be forced to spend millions redesigning balls that comply with the new 125-mile-per-hour test. Who pays for that? Not the professionals. They get free equipment, the cost gets passed to the amateur golfer. Chambly warns that changing the ball creates a domino effect. Because the new ball will have different launch and spin characteristics, golfers will need new clubs to optimize performance. Drivers, irons, wedges, the entire bag might need replacing. That is a forced replacement cycle. It is equipment obsolescence. It makes an already expensive game even more expensive. Chambly also points out the logistical nightmare at the local level, confusion over what is legal in qualifiers, in state championships, in amateur events. He describes it as a headache that will trickle down to every level of the sport. And for what? To solve a problem that only exists for a handful of tour professionals who hit the ball obscenely far. Chambly respects the legends, but he thinks this rule punishes the wrong people. Number 2. Nick Faldo. The 6-time major champion has spent years arguing that technology has diluted skill at the highest level. Faldo believes modern equipment has reached a state of perfection that masks a player's deficiencies. In the old days, golfers needed intimate knowledge of their clubs. They had to understand ball flight, wind, spin. Now, Faldo says a player does not have to know anything because the equipment does the thinking. Launch monitors tell you exactly how to optimize. Multi-layer urethane balls give you the best of both worlds. Low spin off the driver so the ball does not curve or balloon. High spin on approach shots so you can attack pins. It is a technological insulation that lets players swing with maximum aggression without fearing the consequences of a slight mishit. Faldo argues this has created a scenario where accuracy has been sacrificed for brawn. He wants driver head sizes reduced. He wants the ball to be less forgiving. He wants golf to reward shot making again. The modern era, in his view, has made it too easy. Players can smash the living daylights out of the ball and not worry about it flying sideways in the wind. That was not true in the persimmon era. Balata balls were fragile. They would waver in the air if not struck with precision. The introduction of the Titleist Pro 5, won in 2001, changed everything. It was still conforming, but it offered far greater consistency and distance than anything before. Combine that with large-headed drivers, stronger athletes, and optimized launch conditions, and you have a game where historic course defenses have become obsolete. Faldo sees the rollback as a step in the right direction, but like the others, he thinks it does not go far enough. Number 1. The legends. Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Tom Watson. These 3 men have carried the torch for this fight longer than anyone. After their honorary tee shots at the 2026 Masters, they stood together and delivered the most damning critique of modern golf technology ever heard. Gary Gary Player calls the situation a tragedy. He is not interested in modest tweaks. He wants a rollback of 60 yards for the professional ball. Player's argument is rooted in the erosion of strategy. He points out that the concept of a par 5 has vanished. What used to require 2 long shots and a short approach is now reachable with mid-irons. Rory McIlroy hit a 7-iron into a par 5 at Augusta. That is not golf. That is target practice. Player also focuses on the socio-economic cost. He estimates that about $100 million is being wasted globally to lengthen courses. Clubs are buying adjacent land. They are expanding irrigation. They are pouring money into a futile arms race with technology. Player argues that money could go to schools, hospitals, programs that bring golf to underserved communities. Instead, it is being burned to add yardage that will be obsolete in 5 years. He ties this to environmental ethics. The world is running out of water. Expanding golf courses means more irrigation, more chemicals, more fertilizer tied to petroleum-based products, more machinery, more labor. It is unsustainable. Jack Nicklaus has been fighting this battle since 1977. He sees the current rollback as throwing a deck chair off the Titanic. Nicklaus argues the 12 to 15-yard reduction for elite players is a token gesture. It does not address the underlying costs: land, water, maintenance. Augusta National had the financial means to buy property from an adjacent course to lengthen the 13th hole. Most iconic venues cannot do that. Nicklaus points to the distance explosion that turned great strategic holes into one-dimensional power contests. Architects designed holes with intention, risk and reward, strategy. All of that gets stripped away when players can overpower the design. For Nicklaus, this is about preservation. It is about protecting the game for future generations. He frames it as a moral obligation. The sport has a responsibility to its history, to its courses, to the values that made it great. Tom Watson adds the historical perspective. He remembers Balata and Moon golf balls. They were fragile, like eggs. If you did not strike them well, they would waver in the air. Control mattered. Precision mattered. The Titleist Pro 5 won in 2001 was a paradigm shift. Manufacturers found a way to produce balls that conformed to USGA standards but offered far greater consistency and distance. Watson argues that combination of large-headed drivers, stronger players who work out, and hyper-consistent balls rendered historic course defenses obsolete. He believes the line must be drawn. The modern professional game has moved too far from the skill-based challenge that defined his era. The environmental costs are staggering. As courses expand to 7,500 yards and beyond, the resources required scale accordingly. Water. Expanded irrigation for longer layouts. The world is running out of water. In regions already facing drought, golf courses are consuming millions of gallons to maintain fairways that stretch further each year. Land. Acquisition of adjacent properties comes with exorbitant costs. Most clubs cannot afford it. The real estate alone can run into tens of millions. Fertilizer and chemicals. Increased acreage requires more inputs. Rising costs of petroleum-based products add up fast. Every extra yard of turf needs feeding, needs treatment, needs constant maintenance. Machinery and labor, more specialized equipment, more man-hours. The numbers do not lie. Groundskeepers are working longer shifts. Budgets are ballooning. Smaller clubs are being priced out of competitive relevance. Fred Ridley, the chairman of Augusta National, has been vocal about protecting the integrity of the Masters. He was stunned when an amateur in the 2026 field carried the ball 320 yards on the first hole into a headwind. That is supposed to be a tough opening hole. It is supposed to demand respect. Instead, it got overpowered by someone not playing professionally. Augusta has the resources to adapt. They changed the 13th hole because players were hitting wedges into a par 5 that was designed to require 2 great shots. They bought land, they moved tees back, they spent whatever it took. But what about St. Andrews? What about Marion? These cathedrals of golf do not have room to expand. They are landlocked, surrounded by buildings, roads, history. If the ball is not reined in, they risk being relegated to exhibitions rather than competitive tests of championship golf. And then there is the bifurcation paradox. This is where the debate gets truly messy. Bifurcation means separate rules for professionals and amateurs. Colin Montgomery has always supported it. He believes pros should play at 85% of current distance. Tiger Woods agrees. He has been vocal about bifurcation for years. He compares it to wooden bats versus metal bats in baseball. Different levels play with different equipment. Woods points out that every professional would have to use a reduced flight ball in pro-ams. Skills will compress into power and power alone. The rollback is an imperfect attempt to stop the bleeding. It is modest. It is delayed. Ian Baker-Finch is probably right that it is too little, too late. But it is something. It is a signal that the governing bodies finally recognize the problem. Whether they have the courage to follow through remains to be seen. Here is the hope. Golf can protect its best courses. It can bring back the skills that made the legends great. It can still be fun and accessible for the average player who loves the game. The game does not have to choose between entertainment and sustainability. It does not have to sacrifice tradition for athleticism. There is a path forward. It requires courage. It requires sacrifice. It requires leaders willing to make unpopular decisions for the long-term health of the sport. The legends have spoken. Now it is up to the rest of us to listen. If you have thoughts on the rollback versus bifurcation, drop them in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let us keep this conversation going. Golf is worth fighting for.